Final news story of the week. John, you want to talk about Sandland because it's 4K 60 and you're loving it.
Yeah, I picked this up in the U.S. and when I came back, and I was super jet lagged upon return, so I spent a couple nights playing games until very early in the morning as a result. And so I've been playing this for a good chunk of hours, and I really like this game. It feels, I've said this before on some modern games like Stellar Blade, but it kind of has that, it feels a bit old school in terms of design where it does a bunch of different things, but it's not trying to be the master of any of them. And it just kind of becomes this cool story driven action variety game. It's based on the Akira Toriyama manga from like the year 2000, I guess, of the same name. And Namco's doing this whole like media property thing. They got the game, they created an anime and all that. But it's basically it takes place in this world that's kind of been decimated through war and the stuff that's happening in our real world right now, and the whole world's basically turned into like a desert that's devoid of water, and everybody's trying to find whatever water they can get and just survive. It's this big giant sand land, as the name implies, the desert basically. And you play as the role of, like, I guess Lucifer's son. Which is fantastic because there's demons populating this world, by the way. And the story kicks off with basically like this human sheriff basically coming to the demons, which they normally wouldn't do, and asking for help reaching a supposed like promised place within the land where water still flows. And after he asks his dad, Lucifer, if he can go on an adventure with a human, in a very comical way, they go off and set out into the desert, and it becomes sort of this mix of, there's exploration, there's dialogue stuff, there's stealth sequences, there's tons of vehicle action.
This sounds
there's
like, oh my god, the PS2 game because all the mixing of genre.
It's so that. And none of them go so deep. Like, there is some leveling up and parts changes, and you can like modify your vehicles and all that, but like, it doesn't feel like the modern game of where there's like a billion meters to fill and you have to like do all these things. And it's just like, go out there and have a good time. And the combat feels like actually rolling around in the tanks and vehicles and shooting stuff kind of reminds me of like classic Halo, where it's just like, because you can hop out at any point and run around on foot and do things, and you hop back in and you're driving around shooting dudes. You got your cannon and you got your chain gun. It just feels great and it's fun, but really it's just like the personality of the characters, the dialogue between them, and just like the scenarios you're in. It's all like really engaging stuff. And it weirdly also kind of reminded me of the original Mega Man Legends, Rockman Dash, which I'm a big fan of, where it's that same kind of ragtag crew, in this sort of like desolate world, but rather than being, in a world covered in endless water, it's endless sand. So it has that same kind of vibe going on.
Sounds cool.
I don't know. And I really like it. I'm having fun. And I am playing I got the physical disc version on PS5. I'm playing that. It is indeed 4K 60. It's an Unreal Engine 4 game, but like has a very unique style to it. And they are using Enlighten, interestingly enough, for their global illumination solution. And red sand, like, and red rock with like brown sand everywhere, and the sun beating down. There's a ton of indirect illumination that just looks awesome, and it actually is very, very attractive, which I'm digging a lot. So that's cool, and it runs like a dream. It's pretty much perfect frame rate.
Nice.
There's a couple little dips here and there when like alpha particles fill the screen at the wrong moment, but by and large, it's just locked 60 FPS, super clean, looks great. My only disappointment is I asked online, like, I should have bought it on Xbox, basically. I screwed up by getting it on PS5 because I wanted to play the game fully in Japanese, just as I've been doing for all games lately, just to like kind of continue to study and push myself. And this one only has Japanese voices on PS5. You cannot change the text language, which sucks. But apparently on Xbox, you can. So this is a problem with Sony's stupid, like the way they do regional stuff, where you're kind of like locked out of that. But although it's not always the case, it's also kind of a Namco thing. Apparently Namco is notorious for this because like I played through Grand Blue Fantasy, which is awesome, on PS5, and I have the European version of that, and that you're able to switch it all the way over to Japanese, which is great. I don't think this is going to be a problem for most people. Let's
Okay.
let's be clear, but it is something I wanted to point out since it only applies to the Xbox version that it has this full language support.
Okay.
But still,
I have to say a little something here. John's praise is great on the console version there, but I was double checking this because I wanted to check. This is a UE game.
it's gonna.
And I went to the Steam community discussion.
I know what you're gonna find.
I saw a lot of positive. The thing is, I saw a ton of positive, like RIP, like great reviews for the game. It's great. But then I go to the Steam discussion, and one of the topics is called Stutterland, and it's the one with one of the most. And I think I saw a great post here from someone named Mimic, where it just says the word pain. So I agree with Mimic. This is a UE game, apparently, that does not precompile any shaders. And apparently every single time you see something new in the open world, when you drive over to it, you will see a stutter or hitch. So,
I can speak to this, Alex.
Oh, no.
Because I played the demo on PC.
Gosh.
And it was horrible. It was horrible. It's exactly as they describe. It's pure stutter. Like, it's some of the worst stutter I've ever seen in a shipping product. It reminds me, it's maybe not as bad, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of when we got Immortals of Avium pre-release before they implemented shader compilation.
Oh, no.
And it was just remember that? It was hilariously bad. It's kind of like that, where it just feels like they did nothing. So yeah, I figured that the full version would improve that, but if you're saying that's not the case,
I mean, well, let's see here. I need to scroll to the end of the thread. It's a very long thread, but I mean, most likely the fact that a demo doesn't have it, it's who knows. But at least buyer beware. Perhaps give it a check and see.
This seems to be a case where if you have one of the consoles, you should probably just buy it there if you want to play it, because at least
it's guaranteed.
PS5 is like perfect basically, and from what I've heard, Xbox Series X is also just as good.